Anyway, welcome everyone to Institute Darul Rizwan, to all the Harvard students. Welcome from us wishing you in Harvard. But anyway, first of all, I would like to welcome Dato' Zahid. He's the youngest exco of the And also we have one of our board members of IDR, Dato' Amiruddin Hashim. Dr. Mazlan Kamis, of course, the CEO of IDR. Dr. Ahmad Husni. Dr. Ahmad Husni from WISAS. Here. Yeah. Mr. Samuel, yes, welcome to IDR. Dr. Elizabeth Lee. Yes. You found what you're looking for this time, okay?
Younger.
And of course, for all the trackers, I heard you guys had some problem with the food in Asia, right? Rest assured, I'm going to serve you some very, very hot Malaysian dish after this. Right? And the hospital just around the corner, no problem. Okay, it's going to be a very casual day today. Dr. Mazlan is going to say a few words. He's going to present you the leapfrogging to a high-income state, opportunities and challenges for Perak. But before I call upon Dr. Mazlan to deliver his paper, we would like to know what do you guys do. So Ferus, you're in the house?
Right here.
Yes. Can you please introduce us to your practice?
Great. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Firouz Saad. I'm part of the Asia Leadership Track. So I'm going to just take a minute to introduce ourselves quickly. We are a group of 43 students representing 14 different countries and 7 different schools, including Harvard, MIT Sloan, Fletcher, and Sunway University. The Asia Leadership Track is a socio-economic political tour spanning across Asia. We started in Japan, where we held a conference and met with students. We then traveled to South Korea, where we learned a lot about the issue between South Korea and North Korea and met with North Korean defectors. And then we traveled to Indonesia, spent a lot of time in Jakarta, where we met with a number of people from the ministry there and learned a lot about the reforms that are taking place in Indonesian government. And now we're here in Malaysia, and we've been here for a few days. We held a huge conference with over 1,000 participants on Saturday at Sunway University with college-age students. And so it's been a learning experience for us, but also a huge component is we want to give back. So there's a service component to it, and so we've been holding our own workshops and seminars, forum talks, and TED Talks as we travel from country to country, so that we can give something back and also have our participants learn a little bit more about us and what we've done and what we've been working on. And so the theme for the conference, or for the track in general, is opportunities and challenges in 21st century Asia. So it sounds like there's some synchronicities here, and so I think we're all on the same page. So that's it. So I'll hand it back off over to you.
Thank you, guys. Dr. Mazlan, you know that some of the students they were from Clinton's administration, right? How many of you from Clinton's used to work at Clinton? President Clinton, right? We have nothing against Barack Obama, we love Clinton. Dr. Mazlan, it's yours.
Thank you so much. Welcome to Institute Darul Ridwan. Welcome Dr. Zahid, Dr. Amin, Dr. Elizabeth, Dr. Zahid and Dr. Zahid and Dr. Amin. Dr. Amin is they are part of our board members. Now, when I receive a request for IDR to be part of the tour by the trackers, and I said to myself, we could have done this at hotels or anywhere else, but I think I would like you to feel the way we, the so-called think tank of the states, operate in the states. Okay. Now, this room, for example, is a place, is a hangout room for youth that come to us initially, and we decided to create a kind of lounge where they can have a discussion on the issues that very close to their heart. Incidentally, also, Institute Darul Ridwan, almost 80% of us, ages 50 and below. So I have to create a place whereby the younger people in Institute Darul Ridwan, as well as those people out there, will feel that they belong. And so this is a place where we have a monthly gathering of the so-called Teh Tarik talk. You know Teh Tarik? You haven't introduced them to Teh Tarik, but pull tea. Pull tea is like beer talk. We talk over beer, but we don't drink beer here, so we didn't drink to Teh Tarik. Okay? so come here, have a informal discussion. But I want it to be very engaging. You know how Malaysian, we are very hierarchical. A lot of salutation. I try not to salute lengthily, but we want to change that. We want conversation that is very engaging, very informal. People can relate to the presenters and things like that. So the mural is designed by local youth graffiti artists. We thought about having a wall that you can probably 20,000 ringgit worth of mural, but we thought it would be more meaningful if we engage these youth that do graffiti outside, and this becomes a very lively place because we have youth playing music, as part of our talk and things like that. So I realized that, well, we may not have 5-star facilities, but why don't you come and experience how we deal with the public. Now, most of the time when the public engage with government, they have to go through various quote-unquote barriers. But they were surprised when they come to an institute which belongs to government, but they were very, very open, breathing new life in the way we engage the public. And we have had women's group, we have NGOs, we have youth, we have people from all walks of life having their section here as part of our work. Now, throughout my career, I have always been based in Kuala Lumpur. I'm not a city boy, but I've always worked at the federal government level. When I came here last year, for the second time, but it was my first foray into working at the state level. And it was different, at the federal level. I work at the Economic Planning Unit. It's a very central agency, talking mostly to ministries. So you tend to tell ministry do this, do that, and the communication is much easier. But here you have to deal with the public, the field. You have to be in the field. And I realized that there's so many gaps that we can help to fill up, And it's very different. It's real. People come to you for real problem. And it's not just as much as we are dealing with policies, we have to also think about program and strategies for the general public. So our work ranges from doing small interaction with the public, building confidence into what the government is doing, all the way to also handling international program. So last year in October, we had our first Franco International Development Dialogue, where for the first time we got involved with Sunway. So that's the point where Sunway and IDR get together. So it was highly successful international program. It's Franco International Development Dialogue, dubbed by UNDP as the only international dialogue that is organized by a state. Typically, you have international dialogue, international forum tend to be organized by a country, federal, but not a state. And because of the success of last year, this year we're going to go even bigger, because we have a new partner that can see the benefit of having this program. I would love to, for you to check on our website, Franco International Development Dialogue. We've just finished our first workshop last week, and inshallah, it's going to be even bigger, and it will be done at either around Bangkok or in other district of Perak. Now, let's move on to my presentation today. Now, if you have any question, please. If you feel a bit heaty, we try to make sure that it's colder here. But please ask questions, interrupt me anytime. If I couldn't answer, Dato' Zahir is here. Dato' Zahir is the ESCO for investment. ESCO means that he is the minister for the state minister for this. So he has a better understanding and insight into state development. And Dato' Aminuddin Hashim is CEO of Menteri Besar Incorporated, the Chief Minister Incorporated, doing a lot of business and investment for the state, correctly. Mining, especially mining and property. Now, we choose the topic of leapfrogging to our high income state, opportunities and challenges for Perak. Next. Okay, we've seen this one, I've said about it. This is all about Institute Darul Ridwan. Next. This is how we work. We focus on socio-economic activities, a little bit of politics. We work with universities and research institute to do a lot of analysis, and then use that as our advice or input into the policy program, as well as strategy for our stakeholders, basically the government and the agencies in the government. We would like to be a high quality, our mission is to conduct high quality research to provide innovative recommendations that are relevant, practical and impactful, in line with the aspiration of the Perak Aman Jaya. Perak Aman Jaya is a blueprint that was produced by this institute before I joined them. It's a Perak own blueprint for development, and at the pinnacle of the blueprint is focusing on what we call as 3Q: quality of living, quality opportunity, as well as quality income. We don't want the state to become advanced or high income, and yet the people are not getting or feeling the fruits of their labor. So the recommendations are to assist the stakeholders in the state of Perak to make informed decisions in advancing the following goal: basically enhancing well-being, security and opportunity for the rakyat, strengthening public service delivery, and catalyzing economic, social and political transformation. Next. So you probably know this already, but anyway, we are quite strategic in our location. We are the second biggest state in the Peninsula Malaysia. We're very rich in greens. Half of our state is still covered in forest areas, and that's where we are located. Next. Most important also, we are sandwiched between two advanced states. Basically, Penang, the grey stretch at the top, and also Selangor, Kuala Lumpur down south. So we are in the middle. So we, in a way, suffer from a sandwich state, a state that is sandwiched between two advanced states. And the population is around 2.4 million people. Very rich history. Once upon a time, this was the richest state. It was a major contributor to GDP to Malaysia from 1957 to 1980s, and then it was very much the economic activities was very much focused on tin mining. But with the tin price collapse in the 80s, then the state also went down. Yeah, and but we have quite a diversified economy. So we also have the longest stretch of highway, the North-South Highway. We are also the only state that is served by the electric train. You know what? Having the longest highway apparently it's not being in a way positive, because a lot of people come to you, a lot of people from Perak get out. Make it easier for people to get out. Most people travel from Kuala Lumpur to Penang, and they use the highway just to stop by at the rest areas. So it is with that fact in mind that we want to turn Perak into a destination where people, make a point to come and visit and invest. Next. And have you been trapped in a traffic jam in Kuala Lumpur? Have you noticed the plate number, the car plate number? You don't, of course you don't. Our plate number goes according to state. If you're a Malacca, if you're a car from Malacca, the state of Malacca, the plate number is M. Alright? If you're from Johor, then your plate number is J. Start with J. But the plate number for Perak is A. You know why? Because the first car that was registered was in Perak.
Oh, that's why it's A.
Oh, yes, no, yeah. Selangor is B. Pahang is C. What's common between the three? What's common between the three? Yeah, you see, rich. Mining. So the reason why it was registered here, because this was a state where the people with most money and could buy a car. The first one to buy a car, so it's here. So it's A. So the rest of the, after that they couldn't follow that anymore. So so we're stuck with A, B, C. But basically Perak is A. So everywhere you say A, that means it comes from Perak, registered in Perak. So this was the richest state. In fact, the city where you are now was known as the city of millionaire. But with the collapse of the tin, a lot of people move out of the city, move somewhere else. So that is no longer true. Okay, next. Yes. Yeah. So and next. So it produced half of the world's tin production. First in terms of contribution to GDP to Malaysia. In terms of population, it was also first because you attract a lot of people to come when you have those rich, when you can find riches. And not just that, there are 40 firsts in Malaysia. You have first high school, first this, first that. You also have the first prison, by the way. Yes.
On the previous slide, was the Malaysia the world tin leader in 1890, or is that a typo?
It is.
Okay, so 120 years ago. This is 1890, is it not?
Yeah, it was in 1890.
That's a starting, yes.
That's
yes.
the peak.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
bit, yeah. All right. So there's a lot of first next. So I don't have to list them. There's all there. But you know what? Now, if you were to travel around the city at night, people, it's not that happening. You know, the younger people, young ones, don't find the place to be happening. It's very hard for me to attract people from Kuala Lumpur to come here. And despite the nice highways and byways and trains, we really need to be doing something about this next. So, if you can see, in the 70s, for example, all states started at almost the same starting point. And slowly you can see that Selangor, the richest state now, broke away fairly early in late 70s. And then a state like even Malacca already broke out of the rank, despite not having much natural resources compared to us, Perak. Now, Perak continue to straddle at the bottom among quote-unquote the laggards. I don't want to say that, there's some of the states that we believe as laggard. Now, there's a lot of opportunities that actually still exist for Perak because of the landmass, because of resources. We have so many, our mountains, our tin is still there, other minerals are still there, lakes and islands. We have beautiful beaches. We have one of the best managed mangroves. It's there. So rich in resources, very good infra, and actually strategically located between the two most advanced states. So, but we need to make a transformation. We need to do something about it, and that is one of the purpose why I believe the chief minister decided that the existence of Institute is of importance to the state. Next. So how can Perak leapfrog to the next level of growth? Basically, this is it's not bad. We're growing, but it's not leapfrogging. During the PIDD, for example, we talk about we will see rapid urbanization just like any other state in Malaysia, and by 2030, 95% of Americans will be in urban areas. And there, during the PIDD, it was argued that the way forward is actually for you to concentrate on service economy. So that is how we see it. That is what we talk about. Of course, we're not going to forget all these other industries and other sectors, but service will be the driving force. Next. And you're better than me. I'm not an economist. You know that typically nation goes through agriculture, resource base, move into manufacturing, and then they move into services. Now the question is, do we have the time? Because Malaysia poised or want to become a higher income nation by 2020. Meaning that we have now 2015, 5 years to go. Do we have the time to follow this natural normal curve, or can we leapfrog? From agriculture, move straight away to services. Already, actually, services is contributing a bigger ratio, or the biggest ratio to our economic pie. So can we move to services? And I think that's what is happening. The leapfrogging will be a lot more intense in service sector. At least that was the communication that I have with the CEO of the state investment arm. Yes, sir.
While a lot of developed countries are going back to manufacturing and advanced manufacturing, such as Germany, even the States, and your Far East neighbors such as South Korea and even Japan, they're understanding more the value of manufacturing and how much it will make your economy less vulnerable towards crisis and so on. Why you don't probably even grow and focus at least a lot of the resources on manufacturing rather than jumping to services directly, which is normally the easier solution and then the easier to implement.
I think Germany and South Korea, they have this high technology that make it easier for them to perhaps go deeper into the economy. Now, I'm not saying that we are going to forget manufacturing, because while we are talking, we're still enticing manufacturing sectors in Penang, in Selangor to come to Perak, because land, we have the land mass, basically everything is cheaper in these states, you know. It's just that for us to follow that normal curve, I think it will be hard for us to make it by 2020 to reach that target. We're not forgetting, as I said, yeah, we still focus on those sectors, but we know that the service, especially if you see some of the figures which relate to tourism, medical tourism and things like that, there's a big higher potential for us to tap into.
If I may add, actually in the past 5 years, after we unveiled the blueprint for the Perak Maya Perak East and West, we are looking one of the thrusts of achieving the vision set in the blueprint is to actually undertake what we call economic transformation. So yes, we've seen the growth of manufacturing has been more focused, whereby, for example, now we're focusing a lot along minerals. So Vale set up their base here, one of the biggest base in this region. So alongside Vale, we are expanding the steel and iron business around here. And I think in Dr. Zahir's constituency, we are also undertaking a program called Greater Community. So this is where we attract Japanese and Korean investments, building along food and automotive. And don't forget, if you talk about spritzer, you're familiar with spritzer mineral water. If you've seen those spritzer, the source of water comes from Datuk's constituency. So in the past few years, the development of the manufacturing industry and related industries has been more focused alongside our natural, resources like minerals, like we also have, for example, food base, drinks,
rubber, for example, we come up with rubber hub or something like that. Yeah? So we're not forgetting those. Yeah, we're talking about how do you enhance further so that we can catch up. Yeah.
If I so add on, if you look at Perak after the lapse of the industry in the 1950s, it is also a classic example. If you're a student of economics or development economics, it's also very interesting to see, because previously we know that any developing countries, especially that gained independence in the 1950s, 60s, and the 1950s and 1960s, most that started their industrialization program, they would focus more on the import substitution industrialization strategy. So if you look at, especially in particular for this state, if you're able to go north of Perak, especially to Taipei, to Munting, other places, you would see that in the 1970s, most of the factories are basically labor intensive. They're import substitution industries, factories producing, for instance, textile, clothes, electrical consumer goods, television, refrigerator, and all that. These are import substitutions industries. But eventually, in the early 1990s, we lost the competitive edge. Then most of these industries, you can look at them if you do make a study. Most of 1990s. 1990s, you can see that the revival of the manufacturing industry, especially with the Vision 2020, which was launched in the early 1990s by former Premier Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, where more capital intensive or technology-based industries are being introduced. So if you go to the areas, for instance, if the north of Perak, Kamunting, Taipei, and other places, you can see here you can see you go to Gopeng and Kampar, you can see even companies from Norway producing port equipments like Broma. They're based in here in Perak. You can see that previous factory lots of previous manufacturing areas which were used to produce ISI, import substitute products like textile and all that, now has been transformed to produce more capital intensive goods. That's one classic example which I always like to quote. If you go to my constituency in Kemunting, there are two tire factories. One is Silverstone, the name is Silverstone, if you are Silverstone. But now Silverstone has been taken over by Toyo Tires. Silverstone, basically the old factory which was established in the early 80s, it is more of a labor intensive industry. You look at the manufacturing practices, you look at the labor, there are around 2,500 workers in that particular factory, producing tires up to, I believe, 1.5 million, 1.6 million tires annually. But just a matter of 2 kilometers away, a new factory just been set up by Toyo Tires itself, using latest technology from Japan, with the workers around 800, but there are more highly skilled workers. One particular, if you are familiar with tire factories, the Toyo Tires, the new factory, they are cleaner. You can wear suits in the factory. That shows how comfortable it is in the factory. And with 800 employees, they are able to manufacture. I was told that by 2050, it will be the tires they will produce around 5 million tires annually with lesser employees. That's how how the industries, and I believe these are also similar not only to Perak. These are also not unique to the state alone, but also to other factories or manufacturing facilities in all over the country, where they are moving towards a labor-intensive import substitution industries towards more capital-intensive.
Just to add a little bit, moving into services sector is actually a natural progression for economy like us. As Dr. Mazlan was saying, we at the height of mining, we are half of the world tin production. And if you look at the data released by International Tin Research Institute based in London and London Metal Exchange, collectively, if you take cumulative data of tin production, we're still the #1 biggest producer in the world until today. Although we have shrunken from the biggest producer to now only 1%. But what we realized, and there's also a lot of lessons to be learned in the past, whereby the manufacturing, that we moved from commodity minerals, we've gone into agriculture and we moved into manufacturing. But we have not developed the value-added businesses very well. And Malaysia policy has been in the past, because we under the industrial they have the IMP policy, industrial manufacturing policy, was focusing very much on assembly. That's why we've got the UNISAMs and the CASEMs, which is basically doing assembly of microchips here, but we do not have value-added services along it. So we are learning a lot from this. In the past 5 years, we've been working very much with the industry, encouraging investments and as well as partnerships to build the services sector around it. So if you look at Taipei, for example, together with the Northern Corridor, Dream Edge is technology. They're doing R&D. They're doing designs. So this is slowly coming in. And then I believe this is where the future should be. So even now that we are reviving our mineral industry, we are the biggest. We have the best limestone in the world. And you know, limestone is used in everything from paper to paint to your makeups and everything, you know. And all the big limestone manufacturing companies, they're Belgian based, like Omia, Lois, America, are all here. But what we're looking next is basically moving towards the value added. And that's where we see the contribution to the services sector is going to come from. But this is a natural progression, and we had to go through a lot of hard knocks in the past to realize this.
Yeah, it's just a really quick follow-up on that. So would you say that when you're talking about services, you're talking more about export-oriented services as opposed to like services that are mostly for the local population?
You see, should I answer that, yeah? You see, there is already an immediate need for local services because we're importing a lot of services. So that's the first thing. I think once we can establish ourselves and then we are ready to do export. Like Penang, for example, they had an early on manufacturing development, and today they are exporting services. So Penang companies are already having clients in Taiwan, in the US, in the Europe, and everywhere. And we already found our niche, and then what we got to do is to basically to have a more focus, you know, in what we do. And then at the end of the day, like what Marco Porter says, you know, you either become a low cost producer or you stay focused. And I don't think we can hang on to becoming a low cost producer for a long time. And we got to stay focused.
If I may add. So my experience in having these deadlines or these timelines that are, I mean, sometimes well thought through, but even just having them in general on the federal level, and this happened a lot in the GCC region, and I'm talking about the Gulf countries, including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and these are the countries where they put these 2030 and these 2020s, and everyone is happy about them, they take pictures next to it, but then if you see how this trickles down to the economy and how this kind of push the economy into a zone that is not natural for them and that doesn't get to a sustainable and a meaningful growth, this is where I can see some of this as well happening in Malaysia. This 2020 deadline or timeline is beautiful, and I think everyone wants to work towards it, but that should not direct you away from innovation and the longer and the harder term path that would lead to this sustainable innovation and sustainable growth of manufacturing and value-add services that we're talking about.
See, just to finish up, since you're talking about that, sorry, no, taking your time. Malaysian multimedia super corridor, and everybody was obsessed with IT, and every state wanted to do everything about IT, and we forgot that we have rubber, that we can do innovation around it. We have one of the best rubber research institute in the world. We have the oil palm, and we've got the Porin, which is one of the best palm oil research institute in the world, and we've got many others. And that's what happened. You know, we are so carried away with doing new things that we have to learn up and forgetting about what we know best, and we've been doing well. You know, so that's why we've come down to reality. We have done a lot of reality checks. If you talk about Ipoh, you know, Dr. Mazlan showed you the 41st. We have the best chicken tauge, for example. You got to try this. You know why the tauge is so big? Because of the limestone water. We have some of the best, the bean sprouts. You know, we are good in food. We're good in food, and half of the ducks that are eaten in Taiwan and Singapore actually come from this state. You know, and if you talk about tin, it's being smelted in Batu, but a lot of sources are coming from here. And I talk about limestone, watchmaking, you know, the mechanics, the company is here. The company is doing the swatch, the engines, because they use a lot of soldering and everything. They actually have an operations here. And we have many other success stories that we have not looked seriously into and start asking, hey, what can we do about it? I mean, there must be some good value added that we can build around. This is about clustering. Yeah. So although Michael Porter introduced this many years ago, only recently that we start to take it seriously. And I guess Mr. Porter should come down one day, you know. Maybe when we go back to Harvard, should tell him, you know, how wonderful Perak is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Amit was the former CEO of this institute. Okay, now he's a director. Now, you probably have heard that Malaysia we have about 6 to 7 million, quite a big portion are unregistered. So we talk about there's a lot of things, a lot of services required internally as well. And also in our Pangkor International Development Dialogue, we came to a conclusion also. Let's look back at our identity and let's look back at whether we have our own clothes to wear. All right. So basically, that's the understanding on how we should move forward next. And interestingly, Mr. Morodesaki, the main presenter, was studying at Malaysia, and he tried to compare some of the indexes that's available online and elsewhere. He looked at about 3 countries that came up about that is similar to Malaysia with respect. Now, this one is focused on tourism. Yeah, Malaysia is indexed together with Costa Rica and Thailand. Because of the same latitude, is it? The equator, and we get the most number of tourists to the country. Now, he went on comparing. He looked at, this is not trying to offend the other country, yeah? Costa Rica and perhaps Thailand, there are other forces that attract people to those places. But in Malaysia, you don't have that. Basically sex industry, we don't have that, and yet we can attract a similar number of people. And it was like, how could you attract that number of people? So, and he came to conclude that actually from the outside world, they look at you as not just happy but genuinely happy. So it is this being genuinely happy. How do you promote yourself to the world? This is a genuinely happy place. This is a place that you ought to come and experience and use that to leverage to the world of what you have. And that will be the basis of either branding or getting investors in looking at really we should be looking at our identity, what we naturally have, and that become the attraction to the world. Yeah, next. So understanding that and looking at the kind of potential that we have here, I quickly go into tourism here. Yeah, we receive about 5 million tourists, still not that big compared to Malacca, for example. And yet, probably you don't know, we have the oldest rainforest. It's older than Amazon, in fact. It's in Perak. And there's a UNESCO site called Lenggong Valley where the most complete skeleton of the prehistoric men was found, and that has kind of forced reconstruction of certain theory about what it was before. So we have a UNESCO site. And our mangrove forest is also the best managed in the world. Maybe nobody knows. In fact, at that mangrove forest, they have dolphins, which I just discovered. Pink dolphin, which I just discovered a few the last month of last year, because they had a conference and talking about dolphins. Dolphin in Malaysia? I mean, not many people know. So. And there's an additional effort that government have in making the forest cover bigger, a lot of other things related to taking care of our environment. So that's the potential that is yet to be tapped. Yeah. And in terms of healthcare, we have so many hospitals. We know that Malaysia is a hot spot when it comes to health tourism, but we yet to have that spillover. We have the capacity. We know that Malacca, Penang, and Kuala Lumpur is offering those services, but Perak also has that capacity to offer as far as healthcare is concerned. Besides that, we have UTP, University Technology Petronas, world-class universities also located here, whereas several other universities. So a lot can be done to use whatever that we have to promote this state further, to make it a destination for investors, for tourists, for students, etc. Yeah. So that is how we believe, or that is the kind of opportunity. There's a lot more. Yeah. Okay. Next.
Now we are ranked number 3.
Retirement.
Retirement in the
Yeah.
world. This city is ranked number 3 in the world as the most, not just affordable, but most livable place to retire.
For retirement. So in fact, we're working with the Japanese counterpart to create Japanese retirement homes.
Start booking your home.
Anybody from Japan?
We can have
Okay, all right. In fact, I live in a. Last time I was here, I live in Meru Valley Golf Resort. My neighbors are all Japanese. They come flying here at about this time, escaping the winter. And I suppose it's much cheaper to relocate here for winter, duration of the winter.
There are already 100 Japanese families in Meru Valley.
So.
There's a growing Brazilian because of the ballet. And I think there are a lot of Europeans here because the international school here has got 2,000 students and 1,000 are expatriates. So it's start to becoming a destination.
So it is important for this state to be a destination, for people to consider besides other places. And retirement is certainly top because you look how beautiful the mountains, rolling hills, and you haven't gone to visit Bangkok Island, so the whole thing. This state has the right ingredients for it to be a top destination.